In late 2001, a small development studio called Bungie had released a certified hood classic called Halo Combat Evolved to the world for the launch of the original Xbox. Starting its life in 1997, according to the Bungie wiki, Bungie wanted to make a Mac-exclusive RTS game. It then went through some changes on its journey, becoming a third-person shooter, and then of course, the first-person shooter we know and love. Then Bungie sold out to Microsoft. For Microsoft, this ensured that those dastardly gremlins at Apple didn't get their game, and for Bungie, more funding to handle a glitch in their 1998 strategy game Myth 2. That would delete everything on your computer, including the operating system, when you used the uninstaller and the game didn't have its own folder. And of course, development for a new game. Selling to Microsoft helped with their funds but caused other issues, most prominent being the rushed development so the game could come out as a launch title for the Xbox. And that rush plagues the game to its very core and really does show itself in the final results, but more on that later. The game starts with an opening shot of the Pillar of Autumn flying towards a ring in space while dropping exposition that you'll understand because you read the book Halo Fall of Reach written by Eric Nyland that came out just 2 months before the game, like the nerd you are. We even get introduced to Sergeant Johnson, who is a mainstay in the series, with this little clip.
Once again, it is our job to finish what the Flyboys started. We are leaving this ship platoon and engaging the Covenant on solid ground. When we meet the enemy, we will rip their skulls from their spines and toss them away laughing. Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
Damn right I am. Now move it out. Double time.
The game then cuts to these two guys who definitely aren't typing anything, waking up the game's playable character Master Chief from cryosleep so we can start tearing up some thinking feeling aliens who probably have families. Yeah boy. After we do some video game setup stuff and some people don't go home to their kids, we make our way to the bridge trying to not get killed by the ship falling apart around us to pick up this Rule 34 bait AI named Cortana who has to leave the ship according to UNSC policy so the Covenant can't use her for information. I guess deleting her is off limits, but picking her up so we don't get sent to HR and picking up a completely empty Magnum from Keys, which leaves anyone with brain cells asking, why do you have a gun if you don't keep it loaded? We start making our way to evac the ship and pick up ammo from somewhere, I don't really know, get our first taste of combat, and even meet a couple different Covenant enemy types in the game, the Grunts and the Elites. This is overall a really good way to open a game. The combat is free-flowing, feels tight, and the game wastes very little time getting you into it. Not to mention, the soundtrack is famously Chef's Kiss. I'm not sure why the precious backstory that is pivotal to understanding what is going on is hidden in a novel and not the game, but whatever. After running through some locations like where this guy died earlier and some dimly lit corridors for some reason, we finally get to a lifeboat, make a fellow Marine feel inadequate, get off the Autumn, and see the ring. Our boat then crashes, leaving Chief the sole survivor, and after mourning the loss of our crew in what might be a psychiatric record-setting time, and taking all the ammo they dropped, we make our way to find other lifeboats, survivors, and kill some Xeno scum. In all, there are 3 boats scattered around the level, and speaking of the level, this is the first time we actually get to explore the titular Halo, and it's a sight to behold in 2001 and 2011 graphics.
Alert.
The first boat is right around the corner, and there's already a fight going on when we get there. We show up, teach the aliens some manners, and get our first look at Forerunner architecture. There are a couple waves of enemies being dropped in at this location, including our first Jackal, which is functionally the same as a Grunt, but they have a shield, and it sucks. After fending off 5 waves of the annoying things, they finally drop us a Warthog, which is a certified whip. And I'm calling it that because the devs straight forgot how physics work when they made this thing, and it handles like it's made out of styrofoam. Making our way to find other boats, we go through a Forerunner tunnel system that Cortana says,
This cave is not a natural formation. Someone built it, so it must lead somewhere.
Indeed? Thank you! I thought metal tunnels just grew in nature. Glad you're here to tell me that. After a romp through the cave in our papier-mâché Warthog, we come to an open area full of aliens and a bridge that's just not there. So we let our gunner with a bad attitude deal with the Covenant, then find a control panel, turn the bridge on, and we get out of there. We then get to a pseudo hub world where all the paths to different lifeboats that we need to take are marked with blue lights. We make our way to the second lifeboat. The order doesn't really matter here, it's just whichever you go to first. This area is definitely the worst of them, just being a slight hill with hiding rocks everywhere. But after committing a few acts of vehicular manslaughter and second-degree murder for a few waves and picking up the sniper rifle, a solid S-tier weapon, we have saved the survivors and we move on to the next one. Once we get to the next one, it's more of the same. This one's a bit different from the last area. It actually has things like Forerunner architecture, but it's more of the same. We run over and shoot up waves of aliens, save the Marines, and then go to the next one. We get to the last area, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty happy this is coming to an end. This repetitive formula of waves of enemies for padding is starting to get old. This area is the best of all three. The architecture is larger and better thought out, and visually this area is pretty memorable. After some driving, they killed one of my boys with a sticky grenade, and I went into a blind rage. Making our way below ground to bring more justice for my boy, we find more homies to crack a cold one with. And one thing I always found really strange about Forerunners is their need to make death chasms anywhere, but we make our way back up to find out that Keyes is on a ship called the Truth and Reconciliation, and we go there. We start the next level, and this is definitely one of my favorite levels in the game. It's a night level, which I think is pretty cool, and we start out with the sniper rifle and a whole lot of ammo, which I definitely recommend preserving a little bit in this game. We'll get to that later, but for now, we silently move up on a small cliffside, and though it's supposed to be a stealth section, I swear every time I go to the first vantage point, everyone is immediately alerted and has already started firing at me no matter what I do. I like this level because it's visually distinct, and unlike the last, it doesn't leave us sitting in one spot fighting off waves of enemies so that the areas within the level get bland and repetitive, and this should go without saying, but that's a nice touch. We finally reach an arena that gives you an honest shot at some stealth, and after getting caught because I'm bad at games, I hopped into one of the turrets, which is called a Type 29 Shade, and learned that they are awful. They fire super slow plasma and have spread like a shotgun. But we also come across the game's first power-up, invisibility, and after reaping some invisibility havoc, we finish off the area and move on to the next to get a surprise. Not a pleasant surprise, but a surprise. We find a grav lift to the Corvette and a turret grunt with insanely bad aim. We fend off a few waves of enemies until a new enemy type comes down, the Hunter. A hulking creature made out of worms, kinda gross, with a cannon arm, kinda sick, and bulletproof armor that has to be shot around in exposed areas. If you have the sniper ammo, they're no problem at all. That's why I recommend preserving sniper ammo in this level. But this is actually a really great way to introduce the player to a new enemy. Just drop them down and let us figure it out. After murking the hunters, we make our way to the grav lift platform and take it into the ship.
Our search.
Once we're in, it doesn't disappoint. The inside of the Corvette is actually pretty awesome. We fight some Covenant in there, obviously, and start exploring the ship. Once again, this is actually really great work from Bungie. This level is intuitive and aesthetically nice. It feels very alien, but not creepy or oppressive like you often see. It just feels like a normal ship, but it's made by aliens. After exploring the ship some more and fighting some more aliens, we get to a large arena, and fighting some Xenos there, we find our next power-up, the Overshield, giving you more health to fight more hunters, and we keep going till we get to the detention area to find Keyes. We go through one that doesn't have Keyes, but it does have dead prisoners who are fully armed and armored for some reason. This one even has a health pack, so I'm not entirely sure how he died. But moving on to the next, we find him and we find a fight, which includes our first Gold Elite, the strongest elite in the game.
coming here was reckless. You two know better than this. Thanks.
Letting him out, we get an escort mission, and it's terrible. If he dies, it's game over automatically, and he has the exact same AI as the other dumb Marines, meaning he just goes headfirst into danger, throwing caution to the wind. Keeping him safe from himself long enough to get to the hangar bay though, he flies us out in a Covenant dropship, ramming some hunters on his way out. We head to the beach in search of the silent cartographer and get what I consider to be the best level in the game. This level is visually stunning. I love relaxing beaches in games, especially when they contrast the stressful, murderous gameplay like in Super Mario Sunshine. The layout is kind of boring, you don't really explore much, you just kind of move up the beach until you get to the next area, but its presentation and enemy placement more than makes up for it, in my opinion. We move up the beach in our Warthog until we get to a Forerunner construct that'll take us to the cartographer. After clearing the area and driving our Warthog down to the lower level, the door gets locked and we can't get in, so now we gotta get the door unlocked. We find a passageway up the beach, 2 more hunters, one-shot them both, and move on to the next construct. Making our way inside after picking up an overshield, we run into, wouldn't you know it, more hunters. I'm having fun. Are you having fun? Upon dealing with them, we shut down the security system, unlocking the door, and we make our way back to the Warthog, and then back to the first construct, making a quick stop to pick up a Spanker rocket launcher on the way. Getting back to the door, we find that we can now indeed pass, but I don't really know why. I think it's just because the devs hate you. You can't take the Warthog in. It sucks. I don't know. We then fight 2 more hunters, making that the 4th set of this level. The devs do hate you. We finally reach the silent cartographer and find Halo's control center, so we can actually find out what the ring is built for and where the Covenant's weapons cache is. And we make our way back out to find the boys blasting this elite, so we blow them up to help them out. Then we make our way to a pelican that takes us to the next level and bullies a grunt. On our way to the control room, we go deep below ground and start ending lives pretty quickly. We quickly find ourselves back above ground though, on a bridge, and we find that the ring has inclement weather patterns. I'm going to cut most of this level out because this is where the rush development really starts to kick in and the game starts getting copy and pasted a lot. A lot of the combat just feels like busy work here and has no real purpose. You'll see these halls and rooms a lot. We get back outside to a huge battle and get introduced to 2 new things, the Ghost and the Scorpion tank, which we may or may not take on a rampage and ruin some people's days.
More Covenant!
After being forced to leave the tank behind, we find ourselves going through more hallways and rooms that get the old copy and paste treatment for a long while before getting back to another 3 bridges that all lead to the same backrooms. After all that, we come to a new vehicle, the Banshee, the only aerial vehicle in the game, and after teaching some aliens that we indeed rule the skies too, we move on to more copy and pasted backrooms. Oy. Finally, we reach Halo's control center, hook Cortana up, and discover that Keyes is gonna get himself in trouble like a goober.
Find Keyes, stop him, before it's too late!
We get to the next level, which is an eerie swamp, and this level's actually pretty cool. It feels hostile and gross while being entirely alien with glowing sacks that grow in trees lighting the dense fog. I love the way they use the environment to piece together parts of the map. This is probably the most the environment is used by the player in the game. And this is close to my favorite level in the game. It's just a little too short. We finally make our way to a structure where things aren't quite what they seem. And with a bit of a gulp, and clutching up if we're being honest, we make our way down below ground where things seem kinda normal but the music's spooky. This level makes for a really nice juxtaposition with the last because, for one, it isn't 60% padding, and it also builds a nice horror-esque tension. It even has this like Hall of Horrors and some crazy dude.
Stay back! Stay back! You're not turning me into one of those things!
Going through a door and catching a dead guy, we find a helmet that gives us a found footage style cutscene that starts with some banter between Marines on their way to the Covenant weapons cache. It then cuts to them entering the cave we just did and their journey to the room that we are in. And of course, our first look at the flood.
There! Get out! Hold still! Hold still! Let him have it!
Sergeant, we're surrounded!
Damn it, Jenkins! Fire your weapons! There are too many, Sarge! Don't even think about it, Marine. What is it? Rocco!
Get back here, Marine! That's an order!
Jenkins!
Starting out as the infection form, the main threat they pose is that they swarm up on you, but the assault rifle makes pretty short work of them. They're not that big of a deal unless you're fighting more than you can handle. Then we get elites and marines with a little bit of body horror sprinkled in there, and these guys actually pose a bit more of a threat, jumping and, well, just being a pain. Making our way back through the level, we get our hands on our first shotgun, which is an S-tier zombie dispatcher. Finally getting back from whence we came, we make our way through a haunted forest and we catch a glimpse of the famous light bulb named 343 Guilty Spark, who disappears us with space magic to the worst level of the game. This is where the pain begins. Just to be upfront, I'm not going to say much about this level because there isn't much to say. If the other levels had issues with being copy and pasted, this level has full-on demons. It's notorious in the Halo community for being the same thing over and over and over again. Basically, you go from floor to floor fighting the Flood with their hoarding AI constantly leaving you frustratingly surrounded for 4 floors. It's not fun. We do get introduced to the carrier form of the Flood, which releases infectors when you kill them. You get pretty accustomed to them by the time you're finished with all 4 floors. Honestly, you are the sum of all your parts, and this game would be better without the Library of Tedium. And finally, we get to the end, and we get the Codex to destroy the Flood, or so we thought. Sorry if I even sound bored, that's just what this level does. Turns out that light bulb bowling ball high-pitched robot freak was trying to get us to destroy every living thing in the galaxy to starve the Flood out, which isn't very cool. And then Cortana says a bad word, which there is no excuse for.
You have no idea how this ring works, do you? Why the Forerunners built it? Halo doesn't kill Flood, it kills their food. Humans, Covenant, whatever. We're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life. You don't believe me? Ask him.
Is it true?
More or less. Technically, this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years. But once the others follow suit, this galaxy will be quite devoid of life, or at least any life with sufficient biomass to sustain the Flood. But you already knew that. I mean, how couldn't you?
Sod off!
We destroy his kill drones and get outside to find that we're just reusing levels now. Sick. We now need to destroy 3 pulse generators to keep the ring from being activated, and to do that we have to go over these bridges again because, yeah, sure. Sorry, that was just me trying to bash the pain out of my head. It's the same level as before, but with Flood and a serious difficulty spike because the Flood have spankers for some reason, and you mix that with the new Covenant vehicle type, the Wraith, you find yourself looking at a real nightmare. I mean, look at this. After destroying the last pulse generator, we move on to the next level to save keys. Again. Literally dropping into the next level, we find ourselves inside the Corvette from earlier, however this time it's all messed up. Cutscenes like this are the reason why I like Halo CE and 2. Unlike later entries, they don't take themselves too seriously. I actually really like this level. The difficulty goes back down to being far less frustrating, and even though they reused the Corvette, they put a lot of work into making it look damaged and added a coolant pond level below. It goes back to the horror vibe that the game was cultivating earlier, and it's definitely basic, but it's got such a cool atmosphere.
Analyzing damage.
Falling into the coolant, we need to make our way back inside the ship. I also just love the way that they made the coolant glow green. It just makes everything look toxic and ominous. It's really cool. Getting back into the ship, we're greeted with a dead-feeling hangar, and this really goes to show how important subtle details are. This level felt vibrant and clean before, and now it's hostile and foreboding. We finally find Keys, and he's become a dead space monster. We desecrate his body so we can take his neural interface to blow up the Pillar of Autumn, the Ring, and the Flood. Leaving the ship behind, we make our way to the Pillar of Autumn, and we find it in a dire state. And then we crash land as an epic prank to scare Cortana.
This thing is falling apart!
It'll hold.
We're not gonna make it!
We'll make it.
Pull up! Pull up! You did that on purpose, didn't you?
I believe that's what we call an epic gamer moment. We make our way to the bridge to start the self-destruct, but then 343 says the game can't end yet and shuts down the timer, and now we have to manually destroy the Pillar of Autumn.
I leave home for a few days and look what happens. This won't take long. There. That should give us enough time to make it to a lifeboat and put some distance between ourselves and Halo before the detonation.
I'm afraid that's out of the question, really.
Oh, hell.
Ridiculous! That you would imbue a warship's AI with such a wealth of knowledge? Weren't you worried it might be captured or destroyed?
He's in my data arrays, a local tab.
You can't imagine how exciting this is to have a record of all of our lost time. Human history, is it?
We get to the engine room to destroy the ship and find that we need to pull back the exhaust couplings to blow up the fusion drive cores. Lots of sci-fi words. To do that, however, we first have to do some janky first-person platforming, push a button, and blow up the core. Then rinse and repeat 3 more times. After that, we get treated to a Warthog run. The devs were really out of their minds on this one, dude. You have 6 minutes to get off the Pillar of Autumn while driving through a repetitive track that makes you ask why a spacefaring warship would have any such thing, especially because you aren't even inside the ship for the most part, so you can just float off into space. But we then get to a smaller ship to take us back to humanity, blow up the ring, and find out that we killed everyone, humans and aliens alike, and the day is truly saved. The end. Conclusions, starting with the bad. Halo has some issues. The levels, for starters, are lacking more often than not. Almost every level goes from A to B back to A to make the level twice as long. And that's not talking about the levels that are just a couple areas copy and pasted on top of each other, or repeated. The game's story is a bit all over the place as well, and most of the exposition needed to understand what's going on is missing so that you'll buy a book that explains everything. However, even the things that are there feel poorly explained. More often than not, the plot just kind of points in an area that you're supposed to go to and glosses over why, leaving me not knowing what I'm doing. The characters aren't much to write home about either. Johnson and Keyes are both archetypes, one of a cool hardened Marine and the other of a stoic leader. There are the basic Marines and Fohammer, the pilot with no face or personality. She dies, and the game makes it seem like we should be really sad, but since she doesn't really have a name, face, or personality, who cares? I know I sure didn't. It even took a few playthroughs before I realized that she died. Now for the good. You can feel the love put into this game, and it has some serious charm. The devs did a fantastic job of building atmosphere in places, whether it's Super Mario Sunshine or Dead Space. As long as it isn't the library or the control room, there's a real passion here. The enemy's AI is pretty basic, but there is a nice variety. I think the Covenant is done better than the Flood due to them not feeling all the same, but the Flood does change up your strategy and approach to combat more often than not. The weapons often feel good, and the gameplay, of course, is where the game shines. Having changed the FPS landscape forever by adding the 2-weapon system leading to more ammo management, except the fact that ammo for everything is pretty well everywhere, and having really gotten the movement controls down pat, somehow 24 years later it doesn't take any getting used to. It feels modern still. Halo Combat Evolved is best explained as a proof of concept. It was rushed, reused assets far too much, the story isn't that deep, and only the first 2/3 of the game is really good, but look at what the concept became. One of the most famous and wealthy gaming franchises ever. I played the game from start to finish more times than I can actually count, and I'm sure I'll play it through many more times in the future. Just because it's far from perfect doesn't mean that it isn't a far cry better than Halo 5. Speaking of Halo 5, I'm gonna beat on a drum that's been banged on quite a bit here lately. While working on this video, the Halo CE remake was announced. Why? Because all the Halo games after Reach were failures in some way, shape, or form. Halo 4 being the best game of the 343 era in my opinion, and I still don't think highly of the game. So why can't the franchise just die? Halo CE is perfectly playable today, has aged really well, and is on Game Pass. It has flaws, sure, but a remake should take a good game that was hard to play due to its age and make it more modern like the Resident Evil 2 remake. Halo CE just isn't that. It's not age or clunk that hurt it. Even by today's standards, it ain't bad. The gaming industry is almost nothing but endless sequels, remakes, and reboots because no one wants to take risks or make anything that might not be a money printing machine. With how long and expensive game development is anymore, I can understand the idea that risk is not something you're willing to take, but look what happens. Stagnation and often failures. Looking at you, Ubisoft. There are 12 Halo games now, and since making the sequels is now failing, we're getting our first remake. The reason the games are failing isn't because we want more of what we already have. It's because the games are corporate, passionless, and speaking as a Halo fan, I'm over it. If you got this far in the video, you're a real one.